Yo, what is up? We are in Malinovka in the A-20. What could be your first ever light tank in this game? Now, we're going to talk about this game, compare it. We're going to talk about this tank, the A-20, compare it with the T-50, which is now in the collector's garage, and we're going to compare it against the Chaffee, which is also at tier 5. But before we get into that, let's talk about this map, Malinovka. When you're spawn on the western side of the map, this is a great position for you to spot out your enemy teams, but there is a caveat to this position. The problem with this position when you're playing it as a light tank is you're gonna see this in a minute. This is a tier 6 matchmaker. We are in a tier 5. When you take up this position and spotting for your team, the problem is it is not encouraging your higher tier tanks to take the hill which is the A0 position. When they're not doing that, there is a great chance that you could lose the game. So if you do take this spotting position, be prepared to try and carry the game. Now, if you're here for the first time, consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a like. This is the best way you can help support my channel. Now, I know about 80% of you are not subscribed to my channel. And if you're not, please do. I'm not begging you, but please do, because if you learn something, if you take something positive, the least you can do is do your brother a solid and give him a subscribe. This is absolutely the best way you can help support my channel, and it's gonna cost you nothing. So let me thank you in advance. But anyway, let's talk about this tank, and we'll compare it with the T-50 and the Chaffee pretty soon. But this is equipment 2.0. Like if you didn't know, we are now in a new era of equipment. I'm using the IRM something mechanic vents and optics on this tank because I want to spot, but I also want to have some combat capability. Like I said, we took this position to do the passive spotting. We're not doing any shooting. We're hitting the T key and telling my team to attack this guy. We're hitting the T key, hovering over the enemy tanks that we spotted, hit the T key, you put a marker on them, and then your team gets alerted to them, tries to shoot them, and then when you damage them, you get assisted damage. But so far, I'm only getting 761 assisted damage in this tank, which isn't the greatest thing, but it's not too bad. But like I was saying, the A-20 is actually a tier 4 tank that was recently bumped up to tier 5. Just in the last patch, or the last 2 patches if I'm not mistaken, 1.9 something, it was bumped up to tier 5. This was a tier 4. I've never played this tank in any of my previous accounts, any of my sheriff's accounts, none. Never ever played this tank. This is my first game in this tank, and I only got attention from this tank because I saw some streamers playing this tank because they were intrigued that, oh, this tank got bumped up to tier 5. So I tried to set up the tank and play it and see what's up with this tank, and I found out that, you know what, this is kind of like the gateway tank to light tanks. I am recommending this tank if you are going to try light tanks for the first time. This would be a great tank to get into a tier 5. This would be the first tank, introduce you into light tank gameplay. You learn about the mechanics, about passive spotting, active spotting, view range, camouflage mechanics. These things are going to be very important. All the knowledge and skills you need in a light tank, you can do it in this tank. Why? Because this tank is kind of a jack of all trades. It can do passive, active, and it can also defend itself. Now, when I say defend itself, I'm not saying that it's a T-34-85, but it does have a capable-ish kind of gun because it is rapid firing. It has, when I say rapid firing, means it reloads really quick. That is why you don't see me running a rammer in this tank. A lot of tanks that reload under 5 seconds, I tend to use something else other than a rammer because, rammer only improves your reload by 10%. So if you have a 5-second reload, it will improve your reload time by half a second. Now here's a skill you need to learn: how to do a handbrake turn, and you do that with the space bar. So you hit the W, you hit the A or the D, left or right, and then hit the space bar, and you will do a sliding handbrake turn. This is very important, especially if you are in light tanks. You need to learn. This is one of the skills that you need to learn when you play a light tank. But like I was saying, what was I saying anyway? This tank here, it's kind of like a jack of all trades. It does good active spotting, it does good passive spotting. It has a gun that reloads really quickly, so you don't really need to run a rammer. Like I said, rammer only does 10% of your reload time. So, you know, unless your tank reloads 10 seconds, you don't really need a rammer. I only put rammers for tanks above 5 seconds. Then I run a rammer, because you can save more than half a second if you use a rammer. But anyway, I'm running the improved rotation mechanics on this gun, which is an equipment that improves the rotation of your hull, improves the rotation of your turret. It reduces the size of your bloom on the move, so it does help a bit of gun performance. The vents also help all your crew performance. Like I mentioned before, vents are very good if you have a lot of skills. Why? Because vents not only improve your major qualifications, which means if your crew is 100% trained, they will become 110% trained, and then it improves your skills, like BIA skills. It improves your firefighting skills. It improves your camouflage skills. The skills that are not crew dependent skills, the basic skills, your vents improve all those skills. So I like to use vents, IRM and optics on these tanks, which helps to increase my view range. Now we are comparing this to a T50. The T50 used to be my favorite. Before the T50 used to be my favorite, the Chaffee was my favorite. After they nerfed the Chaffee down, the T50 seemed to be the more dominant and more aggressive tank. I played the T50 quite a bit and I enjoyed it very much. I think it is a bit too overpowered, which is why they moved the T50 back to the collector's garage. So they're going to, not going to encourage the stat padders to keep playing the T50. Of course, you can still buy the T50 if you want to. It is a very dominant, very aggressive, very good combat tank, but you can see why I don't run a rammer on this tank. 1.9 seconds reload time. If you put a rammer on it, it's going to improve it by 0.20 seconds, so there's no point having a rammer here. But the downside of the A-20 is the standard ammunition penetration, which is only 75 millimeters. It's really terrible penetration. I would advise you to play this tank with full gold. Some tanks you just have to fire full gold, and this is one of those tanks. Now, like I was mentioning to you earlier on, the problem with doing the passive spotting on this map from the west side is it does not encourage your team to take the hill, take the A0, take the windmill and contest it, which means you tend to lose the hill because everybody is trying to shoot what you're spotting for them in the early part of the game, and then they lose sight of the game, they lose the hill, and then the enemy wraps up around us, they take the A line, and now you have to come back like what I'm doing now, try to defend the A line from whatever tanks is available, the surviving 7 tanks on the enemy team. Me being light tank, have a little bit of vision, so I'm just gonna try and use my mobility and my vision here to try and spot out the enemy. Probably I can spot them out. If I get spotted, I could probably evade them, left, right, wiggle, wiggle, use my speed, use my cunning to escape them if I can. As you can see, we have now pulled this back from our ass, not because I did a great job. I did contribute a lot in terms of spotting, but like I said, when you go into that passive position to do the spotting, you lose the position on the hill, and then you've got to come back and use your gun and try to rescue your team, which I'm not doing a great job of. In this particular game, the real heroes of this game was a T-34-85 that was on my team, and a ELC AMX, which was the other light tank on this team that was a tier 5, also doing a good amount of spotting and doing damage for himself, and the team pulling the team across the finish line. This was definitely a team effort, not a solo effort by me, but I did do a little bit of spotting. I got like 1300 spotting, as you can see from my damage count below. But like I was saying, the T50 is better than the A-20, but the T50 is no longer a Tech 3 tank. So this is your Tech 3 choice, the A-20. I died there, but we still managed to win the game, and I got one of the spotting medals, the Scout medal, because I did 2000 spotting with my gun, with my tank. I mean, I also got a first class whatever, not bad for a first game, so I was pretty impressed for the first game. Now in the second game we're going to go to Empire's Border, and this is more of a combat situation game where I'm actually going to use my gun a lot more than I did in my first game. In my first game I didn't really use a lot of my gun, I used my spotting skills. Alright, so we are on the south spawn. I am making my way to Kilo 1, Kilo 2, the western edge of this map. Now this map is going to be changed in the near future, not too distant future. It's going to look a lot more different, but as of right now I've still got the same equipment going on. I'm going to take the K1, K2 position, try and climb up the high ground and use my speed to get to this early position to spot the enemies that are going to rush down the one line. So that's exactly what I'm doing now. If you look at the comparison against the Chaffee, you can see the Chaffee does a lot more damage because my gun only does 55 damage per shot, while the Chaffee does 175, 3 times more damage than I do. But the Chaffee shell velocity is 619 meters per second, while my shell velocity is a little bit more reasonable, 870 meters per second. My aim time is about the same as a Chaffee, but look at the dispersion, a big disparity within the dispersion. You can see Chaffee dispersion 0.42. It takes a long time to aim in a Chaffee, but in an A-20 it takes 0.35 dispersion, which is really good. Also, if you look at the rotation, the turret rotation and the hull rotation dispersion is really good, 0.08 and 0.12. It is the same as a Chaffee, which means when you're shooting on the move, the dispersions are a lot better than are a lot more usable, so you can shoot on the move, which is really usable, really good for a tank like this where you have a lot of mobility. 72 kilometers an hour going forward is a lot faster than a Chaffee. Also, if you look at the power to weight ratio, better than a Chaffee. The traverse speed, which means the hull traverse, the speed of the hull traverse is 48 degrees per second. That means it wiggles a lot faster than a Chaffee. So what you're talking about is greater mobility than a Chaffee, faster aim, better aim, but 3 times less damage. You need to shoot 3 times to get the Chaffee's one shot, which is, I guess you can say, if you like to take your time and aim and poke and shoot, maybe a Chaffee would serve you better. But if you like mobility, firing off your gun like a machine gun, bang 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 bang, and then you move on and then you piri go somewhere else and shoot someone else, this might be what you are looking for. Now again, I was saying this could be your first light tank. I do recommend it very much. Why? Because it teaches you the discipline of a light tank, not just passive spotting. You see me here doing the active stuff. In this game, you see me looking for damage, going for damage instead of hiding in the bush and doing the passive stuff that you see a lot of failed light tanks players do. When I say failed, I don't mean to judge you. I know a lot of players think that a light tank role is to be passive and do spotting. No, a light tanks player, that is not their main goal. That is part of their job. Being a passive scout is just part of your responsibility. Your main responsibility is always to use your gun and be involved in combat, no matter what tank you are driving. There is no role out there that says all you do is spot. even if you are in a light tank, your secondary job is passive spotting. Your first job is always trying to do damage and contribute to your team. That is the only way you can secure a 60-70% win rate for yourself. You cannot rely on your team to win the games for you. You have to find a way to do it for yourself and to be a major contributor to your team's victory. So when you play light tanks, I suggest you pick up something like a T50, a Chaffee, or this tank I would recommend the A-20 because it is very combat capable and it can fulfill all the responsibilities of a pure out and out spotting light tank. So you can do passive spotting, hiding in the bush, and you can get in there, use your mobility, and look at my gun. Ding, 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 ding. I killed another light tank and a much better light tank as well. Of course, I didn't do it without any help from my team. Of course, my team helped me out. It's very difficult to fight a higher tier tank, especially one that has reload time as almost as fast as you. But here we are, 5 kills in my A-20 in a tier 6 matchup. I'll try to get more kills if I can. That's exactly what I'm doing. While I was playing this game, I wasn't thinking about that. Of course, I was just trying to get as much damage as I can. Here's the problem with this tank. I pen 1, I bounce 2. Thank goodness I managed to finish him off before he could reload and finish me off. That was my 6th kill, and here I am securing my 7th kill. Am I securing my 7th kill? No, I don't secure my 7th kill. Only 6 kills for me. What do you think about this tank? Is this going to be your first ever light tank? I got an ace tanker for this game. This was my second game. No, not my second game. Maybe my third game. Maybe my second game, or maybe my third game in this tank. Really happy about this tank. I recommend the A-20 to anybody, even if you are an old player, new player. Play this tank, you are going to enjoy it. It is such a blast to be in a competitive light tank that is also combat capable. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching. Remember to give this video a like and hit the subscribe button again. 80% of you haven't. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.